Well, good morning, my farmer friends. It's me, Corinna Bench. If you are new here for the first time to our group, I want to say a special welcome. I am the founder of mydigitalfarmer.com and one of the farmers at sharedlegacyfarms.com out in Elmore, Ohio. I also am the person that started this Facebook group. So if you're here for the first time, that's kind of the orientation. I'm glad you're here. Every week I show up and I do some kind of a video training on a topic of marketing, specifically digital marketing in most cases, as well as sometimes I throw in some leadership nuggets from just how to build our farm. So we've been doing a CSA farm this is going to be our 11th season. We have about 400 members in our CSA. We're actually getting ready to start our early bird registration sign up I think I'm going to start in 2 weeks. So I'm excited to kind of see if I get some good results from that this year. I have a feeling some of you are doing that as well, but we're coming kind of to the end of our season, aren't we? And this is when we're going to be starting to do some think tanks, hopefully, evaluate our season, look back, and plan ahead and try and think about what can I do better? What can I do to make some changes? I actually was sitting in a meeting yesterday with some other growers from our area. We're a part of a co-op as well. And it was really interesting listening to them and to each of their journeys this past season. Some of them have had some really hard years with just certain crops failing or having some financial issues or just management, labor issues. And it was very sobering for me to listen to that. And I'm like, man, this is a hard journey. And, everyone's just trying to make a living. But I think also have freedom, right? We don't want to feel so tied to our job, we love farming, but we also want to enjoy our families. I think that's one of the reasons why many of us got into this. We want to have the freedom to be our own business person, right? Our own boss and have the life we've always wanted. And so I feel like today's topic is maybe going to be a helpful one because the topic is 3 ways to optimize revenues. In other words, how to make more money. And this is what I consider kind of a marketing foundations, even like a business foundations training. And some of you are probably going to listen to this and be like, yeah, I already know that. But I think there are going to be a fair amount of you who, like me, when you heard it for the first time, are going to see some dots connect. And nothing that I'm about to tell you is going to be like, aha, but you may not have had it all put together in a nice little package like this, where you suddenly see the big picture and you're like, okay, that really helps me. I see the framework. Here's some things I need to do. When I first heard these 3 things that I'm going to share with you today, they were pretty big for me. And I remember sharing them with my husband, talking about it with him, really thinking through the questions that it caused. And it's helped us make some different decisions in our business so that we can have a business that's making money. We can make those tough choices about what do we have to cut? What do we have to leave behind? What do we need to add so that we're smarter about how we're making revenue? So I hope you're going to find this really helpful. This is information that I've learned from a guy named Jay Abrahams. You could probably Google him and maybe even find some kind of a training from him. But this guy's name is thrown around a lot in the digital marketing space where I'm learning about marketing principles. And so this is not my own stuff. This is kind of out there that it's being shared with people to get better at marketing. So I thought I would share it with you and put it in a farming context. For me specifically in a CSA farming context, but some of you might just be market gardeners. And I think that this is definitely going to apply to you too. So take some notes. I think there's just 3 principles and they're not super hard to remember, but you might be wanting to kind of scribble down some ideas. This is going to cause you to think about some things. Trust me. Okay, so the first way that you can make more money is, this is going to seem obvious, but you can increase the number of new clients that you get. Okay, now this is often the first one that we think of, like, oh, I'm going to go out and find more leads. I'm going to find more customers to enter my funnel and enter my business and try to warm them up and get them to buy my vegetables or buy my CSA. So we put out Facebook ads and we send out flyers and we try to get our new members to tell their friends about it, right? So this is a very obvious one. One way to make more money is simply to sell to get more customers in your lair so that you can sell to them, all right? Increase your traffic. So if you have 300 CSA members, if you get 50 more and next year you have 350, you're going to make more money, okay? If you have 50 buyers at your farmer's market every week and you suddenly start getting 100, you're going to make more money, okay? This is not rocket science. But the downside to this is that of the three methods, this is actually the least profitable and the most the most time consuming of all the methods. And as I went through these three things that I'm going to share with you today, I realized that I spend the bulk of my time right now as a marketer trying to do this one, trying to get more leads into my funnel. I'm creating lead magnets all the time. I'm creating video content on my Facebook pages to create engagement and create awareness of my brand so I can slowly warm them up. And it is extremely time consuming, making videos, coming up with ideas, constantly having to put myself out there and then wait for them to warm up. Yeah, that takes time. And there's no money in it right away. You don't see that revenue increase for a while. And so that can get kind of discouraging. So if this is one of the things you're doing, I'm not saying don't take it out. Obviously, this is one of the things we have to be working on to get more people into our funnel, to replace the ones that eventually age out of our customer journey. But there are two others that I think are going to be even more powerful. So here's some just different ways that you might be building up your client base right now. These are some examples that are out there of what other businesses do. I was trying to think of ways that this could relate to the farming world. But number one, you probably have a website. But your website should have something in it that captures prospective buyers. I've talked about this before, so you should be putting some kind of a form on your website's homepage so that people can give you their email address or be able to contact you in some way. Hi, Lydia. Lydia says, I'm all ears. This is a good topic. Trust me, I know. So some kind of a form to capture that contact information. I also talk a lot about lead magnets. So not just having a, hey, subscribe to my newsletter, which isn't honestly very appealing. Like I wouldn't want to just give you my email for a newsletter. But if you have some kind of document or PDF or maybe an audio or a video series that you're going to share that's going to drip out important information or answer questions that your prospective buyer really wants to know, they might trade their email address for something like that. And so there's a way to build what's called a lead magnet on your website, or to put the lead magnet on your social pages so that people will, subscribe after they see something in your Facebook page and then give you their contact information. Okay, these are examples of trying to get more customers into your lair so that you can warm them up and then eventually sell them something. This is one way to increase revenue. You can also just, I talked about building up that email list. Okay, so if you have a greater email list, you'll be able to sell more things. Okay, you're going to have more buyers in your web that you can share with. And also just contacting people by phone. I mean, we don't really talk a lot about this on this channel because I focus a lot on digital marketing, but if people give you their contact information, like a telephone number, you can call them and you'll probably end up making a sale that way, okay? Some other suggestions are to create referral programs. So I did a whole video training on this. You can look back in the archives. How do you go about using your own customers to become brand ambassadors? But this is another program that you can set up within your business to increase revenue, to get more customers so that you can increase revenue. You could build a network of alliances, strategic alliances with other businesses in your area that have alignment. And then you can share kind of the marketing with them. You could share the customer acquisition cost with them. So this isn't a really great example, but we do have a partner farm called Weber Ranch that provides our eggs for our egg share. We don't actually do the eggs ourselves. And they're also kind of the premier meat provider in the Toledo area. They do grass-fed beef now, and they have pigs and chickens, you name it. And so it's kind of cool because I feel like we sort of cross-promote one another. And so when people find out about us, we talk about Weber Ranch. When people talk to Weber Ranch, they talk about us. And so we sort of share this cost of finding customers because our customer base is very similar. In fact, in many cases, it's the same. It's almost like I could just give them my list and they could, make some major money off that because we have the same type of customer, the foodie market. So if you can create some alliances with other a customer or other types of businesses that might have alignment with you, that's another way to pull in new customers. If you tell them, hey, talk about my product with them and I'll talk about yours with people who come to me. You could also offer special first-time buyer discounts. That's another strategy that's kind of out there to help get new people into the mix. You could offer free samples. I know that some of us might even do like a free trial week of CSA so that people just get into your pipeline and they try it out, and they're much more likely to continue if you've given them, an easy way in. And now you have a new customer and you're going to have more money. Money back guarantees is something else to think about. What is your refund policy, or just creating that safety net? Like when it's on your sales page, like talk about your refund policy. Say, I have a money back guarantee. I want you to try it for 3 weeks. If you don't like it, you can get out. Something like that reduces the risk for the customer. That's another strategy that gets people to sign up, that removes a barrier and obstacle, and will cause them to become a new customer, aka new revenue. And then finally, giving people additional bonuses when they make their first purchase, okay? Just something to get them through the door. So if you can come up with a freebie of some sort that you can give to them, that will sweeten the deal, okay? So these are some examples of ways, that strategies that help achieve this first principle of revenue optimization. Just simply getting new leads, new customers into your funnel, okay? The key metric that you can be using here, so you should be measuring, and this is something I'm not doing yet, but I'm going to be doing it starting this year. I have no idea. I don't have a good sense of my numbers. Like, I'm not measuring, how many people. I guess I know my customer retention rate. I do know that one metric, but I haven't been measuring other things. I don't know how much money my typical person is spending. I don't have the tools set up in place to be able to easily run a report to find that out. And so I'm really excited this year to get better at that, so that I can make decisions, business decisions, based on data, not just feelings, right? I want cold, hard, black and white numbers. And that's what, great businesses make their decisions on. So the key metric that you're measuring in this particular customer optimization strategy is cost per acquisition. So what is your cost per lead? Do you know your cost per lead? How much money are you spending for every person that comes in as a lead into your layer? You need to know that number. If it's really high, and let's say it's $25 that you're spending for every customer that you end up acquiring, that's gonna definitely help you make some decisions about the cost of your product or some of your marketing strategies. Okay, so that's something that, just put that on your radar, that you need to start coming up with a way to measure what your cost per acquisition is. Okay, the second way that you can make more money is to increase the size of each client transaction. All right, so I want you to think about going into McDonald's, and we've all heard this example where you say, I would like to have a hamburger, and they say, what? Would you like fries with that? Okay, there's an immediate upsell opportunity given to you. And in most cases, people say yes, and I'll take a drink too. Would you like a cookie? Sure. And most, all the online e-commerce businesses do this really well. If you go into Amazon and you put something, you look at something and put it in your cart, they're going to give you a suggestion down at the bottom for something else you can add to it. Would you like to bundle it with this? Most customers buy this, this, and this when they buy this. Okay, so that is a great example of this principle right here. They're trying to increase the size of your customer transaction. Be thinking, what this means for you is to be thinking about, how can I upsell? What are some things that I can add onto or bundle or package together, so that when my customer comes to buy something from me, let's say from a CSA, they're not just buying the base kind of flagship offer. It's not just the vegetable box, but what else can you add on to there? How can you work harder and better and smarter at getting them to want to buy the other things in your product suite? So this is upselling, cross-selling, and reselling. So all of these three things kind of fall into this category. What does that look like for your farm? Maybe you're not a CSA yet, maybe you just have a farmer's market, but I'm sure that you all do this. Somebody comes and they're like, I'm looking for carrots, And then maybe you start talking about these gorgeous tomatillos that are right next to it. And you start telling them what they can make with that. And they can make a killer salsa verde or whatever. I know I used to do that. I would actually train my staff how to upsell, because I know that when somebody's coming to buy something, they're pulling out their wallet and they're ready to buy. Mentally, like psychologically in the brain, that is the time that they are most willing to buy more. So we can take advantage of that. We can leverage that. So this is an optimal time for you to ask, would you like something else? Can I interest you in this? And try to find other products that have alignment, because they are more willing to just say, yeah, sure, I'll add that on. So present your customers. Are you presenting your customers with a chance to add more to their order? Now, this is an interesting statistic in the online space. So I actually don't know how this relates to e-commerce, but this is just an interesting thing to think about. In the online marketing space, like when you're buying courses and all that, and you're learning how to create courses and digital products, they tell you, the teachers of all this tell us that most people, 20% of people who buy things digitally will purchase the upsell offer. If you pitch an upsell offer, 20% is like the industry average for that. So that's just something to think about. I never used to think about really upsells, but if 20% of the people, and that's probably a low number for our industry, are going to buy something more if you ask them, shouldn't we be taking advantage of that? This is a great way to make more money. So I was really convicted by this when I first heard this about a year ago, when I learned these principles. Excuse me. Because I realized that I really spend all my copywriting time, my marketing, my videos, really focused on my vegetable product. But I have a whole bunch of other things in my product suite. For example, my fruit share, which doesn't come from my farm, but I make a ton of money, it's basically double the cost is the money that I make off of that. And if our fruit share were to suddenly dry up, we would have a lot of lost revenue. It's a big chunk. And I thought to myself, why am I not pushing the fruit share more? This is something that's could make a lot of money, but I hardly talk about it. I hardly take pictures of it. I hardly focus. I don't talk about the fruits because it's not from my farm, and I feel like, But if this is something in your product suite that has a really good profit margin, you should be selling that more. You should be talking about it at every opportunity. Any chance someone pulls out their wallet, you should say, well, how about getting the fruit share? Okay, now I don't know what that looks like for you on your farm, but you've got products right now in your suite of products that have high profit margins, and you should be trying to upsell those at every opportunity when someone's ready to buy something. So I did a video training really early on when I first began this group that I think is a good one. It's called the Value Ladder. And that whole training talks about how important it is to build out a suite of products that increase in value and commitment. So Weber Ranch is a really great example. I just talked about them, but I like to use them as an example because they first started out with just chickens, okay? And they have eggs that they sell. This is a low price point item that somebody can just enter their funnel without a lot of commitment and just buy something for $5, all right? That's very low risk. Well, now that they're starting to learn about this brand and they're consuming this low cost product, then they might get hit up and be like, well, would you like to maybe buy a chicken? Well, sure, I'll buy a chicken. That's just a little bit more. So that's something else in their ladder, their product suite, okay? That's the next item up on the ladder. And then after chickens, maybe it's like, well, would you like to buy a chicken share where you're buying more than just one chicken at a time, but you can get 5 or 6 chickens at a time? Well, yeah, I think I might want to do that. And then they might, on the next rung of the ladder is pork. Well, we also sell pork. Would you just like a few cuts of pork? Well, now would you like maybe a whole pork or half of a pork? And now this year they just laid on and added on grass-fed beef. And so they're going to be putting that at the very top of their ladder. So this is a great example of how they've slowly over time continued to add products so that they can move their customer from, I don't know who you are to, yeah, I'll dabble in you at the $5 level. Now I'm going to spend $25. Now I'm going to spend $75. Now I'm going to spend $500 for this cow, all right? And they slowly have moved them up into a repeat buyer. And so that's just a great a video for you to watch to learn how to create a value, what the value ladder is, and how to create one for your own business, because it really gets at this idea of you need to have different products in your suite. You need to know what they are so that as you market, as you talk about them, you can be more intentionally funneling people through your value ladder so that they are spending more every time they come for that one transaction. All right. So every time your client comes to your website, to your online store, or even to you in person at the market, and they want to make a purchase, you want to ask things like, would you like to buy a larger quantity? Okay, so encouraging them to buy more than just one. Would you like to add on an additional product? Or maybe you have a different kind of another service that you could add on. Well, how about you could join my membership site if you'd like to learn how to get training on how to eat these vegetables. You can join that for $7 a month. So this was just a really, and one more, sorry, to pre-buy in advance more of the items that they just bought. So that's another great idea. So maybe you don't have them already there, but you can say, hey, I'm going to have more of these as the season goes on. You just want to pre-buy a bunch and you can just come pick them up over the next few weeks. So it's kind of a similar concept. But I hope you can see here that what the second revenue optimization strategy is getting at is that you're trying to take advantage of the person that, they're pulling out their wallet, they're ready to buy, they're emotionally, psychologically ready to put down money. This is the time when they are most likely to buy more because they're already in that mindset to buy. All right. So the key metric here that you need to be measuring, and that I will begin to start measuring this coming season for myself, is the average revenue per transaction. Okay, we're not talking about lifetime customer value. We're just talking about, do you know how much does your customer spend on average every time they come and buy from you one time? Okay, so when they're coming to reorder their CSA here in the early bird, what's the average amount that they're spending? Or if they're coming to, if maybe you have an online store that you offer to them throughout the season as well, where they can add things to their box. What is the average revenue per transaction? Just know what that number is so that you have like a baseline to work with, and then you can try to get that number to go up. Because even getting that number to go up by 10% will make a huge impact. We'll talk about that at the very end. Another thing I want you to think about is, who are your big buyers? Who are your big buyers and when do they buy? This is a question. Now, if you're like me, you can probably name them on one hand, the people that come to your farmer's market every week and buy, $50 at a time. Or in my CSA, there are probably about 10 to 15 people that get absolutely everything that we have in the product suite. They get the coffee, the cheese, the fruit, the vegetable, I'm forgetting one, the eggs. They get it all. And they spend over $1,000 with me every time. You know who those people are. So if you can identify those people, offer them incentives, because they will probably keep buying they just probably want to buy more from you. Reward them for making that large purchase in that initial transaction, and give them incentives to want to keep buying. Okay? So, I have a few strategies here for number 2. A few things you can do in your business to get your clients to buy more. Here's some examples. Create a list of every product and service that your business offers. So that's one of the things I ask you to do in the value ladder training. And then make a matrix of all the possible cross-selling opportunities that could be offered with every purchase. So you should just take the time, this might take you about half an hour, write them all down, and then just see where are the obvious places that I could be cross-selling, where I could be talking. When I pitch this particular product over here in this place, maybe I could mention that I have this product. I'm not doing that right now, so maybe I could bring that up, and we'll just see if somebody throws it in their cart as well. Okay, so if you write it all down and you kind of see it on a grid, you're gonna notice 2 or 3 places like we did, where you could be bringing up some of those products. A lot of times people will buy if you just ask, when they're ready to buy something and you ask them to buy something else, they're like, sure. So if you don't even think to ask, you're going to lose revenue. So sometimes doing an exercise like this, where you see those holes where you're not cross-selling is a really simple fix for making more revenue. Where are the opportunities to bring up other offers when you're already selling something else? Are you not asking people to buy enough? And I wrote down the obvious next step. So whenever this especially works when people are kind of warming up to my product and they're starting to buy kind of things at the lower product level, revenue level. And I'll just kind of say, well, now that you've got this, the obvious next step for you is to look at this product. Have you considered this product? I think this is kind of where you need to grow into. I don't word it that way, but that's kind of how I try to pull itself. But what if you had kind of a package that was like vegetable, fruit, and egg, and it's maybe a slight discount than if they bought them all separately? Okay, and then that might encourage somebody to say, well, I'll just get the whole thing, you know, and now they've just spent a lot more money with you. So just play around with that. Also, how you name your product, I think, when you're making those packages goes a long way. Offering bonuses when they purchase large quantities of something. We talked about that earlier. You can watch my whole video training all about bonuses. I talk about what a good bonus would be. That's more for promoting your CSA in like early bird, just trying to get people to sign up. But I think that there's a lot of gold in that video for ideas for what a bonus could be. We've also Kurt and I have talked about offering some kind of a special dinner for members who have purchased the whole kit and caboodle. If they get all 5 of products, I mean, these would be our elite buyers. And you know, if we do some kind of a special dinner and we advertise that, like this no cost, a nice meal for the people who spend over, you know, $1,400 with us or whatever in a season. You could offer tiered level service, so gold, silver, bronze, platinum. Like, is there a way that you could create different levels of membership? People like to advance up the tiers of membership, I've noticed. Like when I don't know if you have ever experienced this, but I know I've been a part of different products where I'm like, well, I'm a silver member. I want to be gold. And so it makes you want to do the next steps so that you can be considered at the top of the game. So think about that. Does your farm lend itself for that kind of a system where you could play around with that? Maybe members who have been with your farm since the beginning, maybe they're at the platinum level and they get certain perks. Or once a CSA member has been with you for 5, 6, 7 years in a row, you make up the number, they get a certain benefit. And that will encourage them to stay with you and continue to buy. Or if they buy at a certain level and spend this much money with you, do they get some kind of a perk? And then this one I threw in here just because I'm trying to think about how it would apply in the farm world, and maybe you'll think of something. Okay, offering some kind of extra service for an extra fee. So this isn't some kind of a product, but here's the example that I'm trying to find what it would be like in the farm world. I thought of Cedar Point. Cedar Point is a huge roller coaster park, as you may know, in Ohio. And they have the Fast Pass. So people spend a lot of money so that they can cut in line earlier. And I was like, man, what does the Fast Pass concept look like for a CSA or a farm business? I don't know yet, but there's got to be something out there that you could monetize on, some kind of a service that really doesn't cost you anything, but that gives certain people, that saves them time or gives them some kind of feeling of extra status that they would be willing to pay extra for. So that's just something to brainstorm. I'm sorry I can't give you a more specific example, but think Fast Pass. Okay, the key metric here in this second section is the average customer value that they're spending in that one transaction, right? Okay. The last one, let's talk about the last one. Increasing the frequency of each client transaction. Okay, this is a little bit different than the second one because this is getting your customers to buy more often. So the second one was we want them to spend more money for every transaction that they come to. Okay, when they come to you to buy something, we want to try and set it up so that they spend as much money as possible in those individual transactions. That's a way to grow revenue. The third way to grow revenue, according to Jay Abrahams, is that you get your customer to come back. You increase the frequency at which they come back to buy. So they're buying more often. And then every time they are buying more often, they're also hopefully spending more in that transaction if you're following number 2. Okay? So if your clients are typically only purchasing from you twice a year, then you want to try and increase it to 3 times a year or 4 times a year, and you will make more money. So the answer here is just to simply give your customers more reasons to buy from you. Now, there's a really good example here for our farm. This one has been huge for us this season. This was the first year that we started the Square store, and it has phenomenally increased our bottom line. And not where I thought that it would. Okay, when we opened up a Square store, an online pre-ordering system basically for our farmers market sites, I was imagining that this would be a place for new customers to find me, people who didn't want to join a CSA, but they wanted to support me in another way, and they would just come and pre-order their vegetables. So I'm like, oh, we'll make some money there. This will be kind of a different product line. Actually, that's not what ended up happening. We do have, under 10 customers that are buying from us who are not in our CSA frequently, like on a consistent basis. But the people that are coming to the store every week to buy are my CSA members. This absolutely blew me away. It's the people that are already in my funnel, my devoted members who want to buy more from me. And so it is hitting this third principle big time. It is increasing the frequency of my customers. They are not only coming to buy from me in the fall when they pre-order their CSA share for the year, but they are coming in some cases every week, every 2 weeks during the season, and adding another $15 here, another $20, another $5 into their cart. And so at the end of the year, I'm going to be able to look back and be like, wow, I've got a bunch of customers who spent an additional $200 with me in the online Square store. Okay. So this has been a huge learning moment for me. I really didn't see this coming. And I guess my big take home for you is your current customers want to buy more from you. They want to spend more with you. They really do. And before, I was always afraid to ask them to spend more because I'm like, oh, they've already spent a lot of money with me. They're technically buying a share of the farm. Why should I be asking them to pay more for stuff that we're growing? But I kind of leaned into this principle. I had faith in this principle, and it is working. And no one is out there saying, well, why do I have to pay for extra carrots? I should be getting them in my box. I am not getting that from anyone. So the lesson here is create more products, more offers, and then offer them to your current customer base frequently. And many of them will take you up on it, and they won't feel bad about it. So be asking yourself this question: what products can I create that they can buy? Bulk orders has been a really big thing for us this year. We sort of said, well, what if we start creating kind of a new product line where we're saying you can buy onions in large amounts or cabbage in large amounts. And many of you are probably already doing this, but we hadn't started doing that yet. And this was then added into our product suite, and I sold it I put it in my online store, but I really, put it in front of my CSA members, and they went to the online store and bought big time. So our revenue has really gone up just from this third principle alone of creating more opportunities for our current customers to buy more frequently. Okay. And you just have to get over that fear of, oh, I'm putting too many sales offers in front of them. No, listen, your members, they want to support you and they want to buy from you. They want that cabbage. And so they would rather get it from you than from someone else if they're going to make sauerkraut. Okay. So here are a few things that you can do in your farm business to get your clients to buy more often. Some of these are going to sound repetitive, but you can offer your online store every week to supplement their box. Don't be afraid to do that. If you want, I actually have a Square, what is that called? Referral link that I'll put down below. If you decide to sign up with Square through that link, I'll actually get a kickback. I don't even know what the incentive is anymore. I think it's like $3,000 without fees for you and for me if you decide to do that. So I'll just put that in there. If you want to follow up on it, great. Helps us both out. You could set up a frequent buyer or rewards program for your clients. So if people are coming again and again and again, and people know that there is such a program, they're going to be more likely to continue to come and buy with you again and again and again. And that small hit that you're going to take, that small cost of the reward program is going to be offset by the amount of money they spend with you, okay? You could offer bonuses when they're making purchases on a regular basis. So if they are coming back week after week after week, you could create some sort of bonus incentive program. Like, you're going to get this bonus if you are one of those kinds of customers, if your buying behavior resembles XYZ. You could create a monthly membership program. Now, that's kind of what a CSA is, and I know that some of you maybe even have it set up so that it automatically comes out of their checking account and they don't have to keep renewing like they do in my CSA once a year. So that's another example of where you're just making money on a recurring basis. For us, this coming season, I really want to try and monetize my membership academy. I just have this incredible online teaching database, all the videos I've ever made in the last 2 years, and my cheat sheets for all the different exit strategies, and my formulas, and my ebooks for every vegetable, and I've got it all organized in this beautiful, super easy to use library on teachable.com. My members on my CSA have been loving it. Like, I used to have to, try and get them to go, and they would be like, well, where was that cilantro video? And I'd be like, oh, and I'd find the link, or I'd say, hey, just scroll through the Facebook video feed and you'll find it. But now I can just say, go to the academy and, look under Veggie University, and you'll see them all alphabetized. And, there's a whole section on cilantro. And so they can get the ebook there for cilantro. They can get, the 2 videos for cilantro that are in there. They're teaching specific things. It's just incredible. And so I'm like, gosh, there's got to be a way that I can turn this into a product, and turn this into a monthly membership program. So that's kind of something that I'm thinking about. Create a new product. So this is, sometimes we don't think about this, but as you're building out your value ladder, what's something new that you can put into your suite that would cause your customers to want to buy something else? So this is the challenge for us every year. We also, my husband and I, feel really strongly about how important it is to keep your CSA fresh and to not just offer the same thing every year. That's one of the reasons I think CSAs can go stale. So we're always looking for ways. Every year we need to come up with some new thing that's innovating. And so last year was the academy, putting the academy together. And this year it's like, hey, what's that new thing going to be? I think we're going to try to offer a bread share. So just something that makes it different, so that every year it feels new and alive to your recurring members. But it's also another way to make more money. And just in general, making sure that you are making offers to your clients on a consistent and regular basis. Don't be afraid to go for the ask. Julie is saying here in the comments that she has sold hundreds, OMG, she says, I have sold hundreds and hundreds of pounds of tomatoes this year through bulk sales, right? Like, not super hard for us to do. We need to get rid of them, and we can make hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on those kinds of things. So look for opportunities to just upsell to your current members, and you will really increase your revenue. This was the third one for me this year was the biggest one. We have seen, I think Kurt told me, $6,000 above our revenue goals with the online store, with Square. And I wish I could tell you that was to new customers, but the majority of it is to my current membership base, my CSA members. It just blows me away. All right, so I want to close with just a little bit of math here, the power of exponential growth, because I want you to imagine all you have to do is raise your revenue in each of these 3 areas by 10%, and you will see a 33% increase in your revenue. Okay, that's sort of the math here. So I want you to imagine that you have 100 clients that are spending an average of $300 with you twice a year. Okay, so that's like $600 for each of those customers times 100. That's $60,000 in revenue. Now, if you got just a 10% increase in all 3 areas that we just talked about, that would turn into 110 clients that are spending an average of $330 2.2 times a year, and that would result in $79,860 in revenue. All right, so instead of just a 10% increase in revenue, you're getting a 33% increase in revenue if you can address each of those areas. So I think it really makes sense to spend some time and think about this. And I think it also, one of my other takeaways for you from this training is to really start getting serious about knowing your data, starting to measure your numbers, knowing your metrics. I am not doing this yet, so I'm guilty, as perhaps some of you are. I'm making business decisions kind of blind, and I don't like that. I want to know, what is my average customer spending? I want to know, what are those baseline numbers so that I can grow them, so I can see what are even my products that where most people are spending their money on. I don't even know that for sure. So taking the time to think through this process, those 3 areas, and identify a few things this winter that you can tweak to try and get your customers to come back again and again and buy is huge. So I'll just run through those 3 again. 3 ways you can increase your revenue. Number 1, you can increase the number of new clients that use your products or services. Number 2, you can get them to buy more every time they come for a transaction. And number 3, you can get them to buy more often. In other words, increase the frequency at which they return to purchase from you. And if you can do these 3 things, you will be amazed at the profits that your business will grow. As much as 33% more if you can increase each of those areas by 10%. That's pretty significant, all right? Lydia wants to know how you can check out my online veggie school. I'll put a link down below where you can go check out the sales page. Does that sound good? And I also made a video of it. I'll also link that up, like a behind the scenes tour of my membership academy, so that you can see what it's all about. When I first, I'm just going to bring this up. When I first made that, it was obviously for my CSA members. But as I was developing it, and as this group was developing it, I was like, man, I wonder if other CSA farmers would want their members to be able to access this. And that suddenly became like, I wonder if that could be like a product that I could sell to help farmers. So that's sort of in the back of my mind. I haven't really pursued that a ton, but that's something that's kind of out there. If you like it and you look at it and you're like, I think my CSA members would really dig this and would get a lot of value from it, that might be something you could offer them. You could tell them about it and they could join. It's $7 a month, or I think right now the price is $65 a year or $7 a month. So people could just join for the 5 months they're in the CSA and then back out. So it's really not that expensive, but it's just a ton of awesomeness inside. So I'll link those things up. Hey, thanks for joining me, guys. Next week, I will be back with another marketing tutorial, and hope you have a great week. Let me know if you have any questions, or if there's something specific you want me to be talking more about. You're like, Corinna, you're not talking about the topics I want to know. Please let me know in the comments, because I'm always looking for feedback. Thanks, guys. See ya.